Okay.
The old one is gone. The new one is there.
Old is gone. Out with the old.
In with the new.
That will forever be the 2.5-minute long podcast where Ty discusses his eye, as far as I know, because I wasn't here at all.
And a little bit of baseball, a little bit of MLB trade deadline.
There you
The
go.
funny thing is, Ty right now, if you just look at Ty right now, he looks like it looks like an episode of Star Trek where he's one of the engineering, one of the engineers who gets killed in the first 10 minutes of the episode. But, okay, now we have the audio going.
I know. Ty discusses.
We want to talk ship here at the HockeyBuzzCast.
Here we are. I invited Russ again.
Okay.
Hopefully you got the invite. Let me post now while you're doing this. Try to get a photo up.
Well, as we were saying before, we were so rudely interrupted. The trades are going hot and heavy, and for the baseball trade deadline. There's Russ.
I wish I was a baseball writer.
Well,
no, the trades are more interesting. They really are. Like
13-player trade. I mean, that definitely is more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I love how the prospects are always so minimalized too. Like,
they really are.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
They are though.
Like the Flyers trade Cole Hamels for 5 minor league. The Flyers.
Right.
Phillies trade Cole Hamels for just all we hear is 5 minor leaguers and something else. Like, who cares?
Well, they traded him to get rid of his $22 million salary. That's why, and they're getting prospects too. I mean, they did get value back. So
yeah, no, they got value for him, and they traded Papelbon to get rid of his huge salary.
Yeah.
Yes, what was it when he won the World Series? He was doing the Irish jig or something like that on the mound when they won their last when they won the last World Series with him. So
Papelbon was a disaster here.
It stinks. The
Phillies was absolutely horrible. I mean, not just bad, but bad on epic levels of arrogance and beyond any kind of thing.
He's like the Jeff Carter of baseball.
Well, okay, sorry.
Jeff Carter, we always say, is the baseball player of hockey, right? That's pretty funny.
But Jeff Carter didn't give a I don't know if it was the finger or flip off. He flipped off somebody's
crotch.
Yeah, that was what it was. Okay, I was trying to mentally.
Carter has done stuff like that, not on camera.
Yeah, I was trying to mentally block out anything involving Jonathan Papelbon's crotch. Thank you.
Well, I don't think Chase Utley and Mike Richards have ever been seen in the same place at the same time. That's my theory on them. Like, they are the same person, just don't know. Like, they obviously play different times a year. They look a little different, but deep down inside, Chase Utley and Mike Richards are basically the same person.
Very possible.
You agree with that, Russ?
Yeah, I go with that.
Yeah, it's not. You see what I've had to do to set up here. I'm actually my computer is perched on a. I gotta take a picture. This is hilarious. Take pictures.
Does Chase Utley have any problems crossing the border?
All right, so this is literally what you're seeing. Like, my computer is perched on a bucket from the sand, like a seashell from the only thing I could find.
High tech.
On a bucket. Very meta. All right, let's start this show. Thank you guys for waiting today. Thanks for everybody hanging out today. I've been working on stuff all day. It's been fun, so I hope to have some interesting things to talk about today.
Sure.
At least I hoped to.
Yeah, that's the plan.
We'll see what happens next.
Russ, you go first, then Ty after me.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Let me just get my notes up real fast, because then we'll have something to talk about for sure. Okay? Man. One of these days in the future, I'll explain to everybody what happened today. You guys will think that this was pretty crazy, because there's a lot of good stuff happening today for Hockey Buzz and such, but I can't talk about it yet. But it was just a crazy day. One of these days, we'll talk about it. All right. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. Sorry. Hello, Hockey World.
You have to figure it out.
I know, thank you. Got this little thing here with my ears. There we go.
Hi, I'm Phil Collins from the cover of Avatar.
I know, I'm somewhat yeah, hats made. It's just, I'm not a hat guy, so this is like really. All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday. It's the last day of July, July 31st, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Ty Anderson.
And I'm Eklund, and that's one excited panel that we've got today. Everybody sounds really fired up.
It's pretty bad when I'm the one that's the most excited. Jesus.
And I know why that everybody's excited today. It's because Beijing has been chosen to host the 2022 Winter Olympics, which means that, according to what you would believe, the NHL made some kind of promise that they would send their players there. And that would, I can't imagine that they wouldn't send their players to the next Olympics. They wouldn't, like, skip an Olympics and then go. So does this mean that we have Olympians for the next 2 Olympics, Russ? What are your thoughts?
Not until we see a press release.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't mean to cut it short, but it's like,
Yeah.
for me, it's not a guarantee of anything until Bill Daly says we're going, which, again, we got to look it up. I really think this is the longest they've ever taken to say whether they're participating or not.
I think so, too. This is definitely the longest. And that's why I think it's almost impossible, for them not to go. I think that because the groups of, the U.S. have their camp this week coming up in Lake Placid, right? But that would be very different if they were going to the Olympics. There's a lot of things that have to be figured out. I guess or not. Is that true? Is this just the same, Russ? Is it just a matter of taking those guys who play in December and sending them to the Olympics?
No, you can't do that. Well, could you do that? I'm trying to think. I guess you could do that, but I don't know. I don't know. Well, no. You would screw up the junior hockey season.
Yeah, right.
They're not equipped for that. I don't know. I don't know how it would shake out in today's world. Back in the day, it didn't seem to be that big a deal, but now I have a feeling it would be a bigger deal.
I think so. Obviously the junior, back before. If we are to believe anything we see from the movie Miracle, that there was a whole camp that went on quite long before this to get the Olympics ready, which was a different kind of group. Because you put a different kind of group together for the Olympics, and I guess the best thing that what I've heard is that neither of these cities that's hosting in the next Olympics or 2022 are NHL powerhouses. So it's not like you're going to have Kovalchuk saying I'm going to play no matter what. You don't have Ovechkin doing that whole spiel. So you don't have any South Koreans threatening to play.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not that hard to put together. But yeah,
Right, that was funny what you said. You don't have any South Koreans threatening to play. Not
right.
not to play.
right. You have some in camp for Dallas.
I just think the lethargic nature of our panel today is reflective of the fact that the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, are going to be played in South Korea and China in 2018 and 2020.
I know. I was so pulling for Alaska. I think I actually hear that 2026 is Alaska, but I don't know that I'll live that long. That's really you start talking about that kind of stuff.
We know internationally, we know that the IIHF and the NHL are in agreement about the World Cup for, I believe it's the next, for 2016 and 2020. So that's going to take precedence right now. We know that we're having a World Cup in Toronto next summer. I would think by then we're going to know whether the NHL is going to sign off on going to the Winter Olympics. To my mind right now, I still think they're not going to. They might go in 2022. What's that?
You don't think they're going? I think they're.
I don't think they're going to Korea. I think they're going to go. I think they would probably go to China, but I don't think they're going to Korea.
Here's what I've been able to pull up. All right, there was an article on February 18, 2014, where it says, Bettman, Olympic decision possible within 6 months.
Yeah, I can say there's a lot of things possible within 6 months. But all kinds of decisions.
Now it's like, what is that, like 18 months now?
Yeah, here you go. What are we going to hear about first? Are we going to hear about a decision about the Olympics or about expansion first?
Probably
the Olympics, yeah. Ty, do you think they're going?
I think you have to. Because you can't skip 2018, and I think the Chinese market is too big to skip out on in 2022. I think that's a huge thing. It's an untapped market for the NHL, unless you count knockoff Winter Classic jerseys. So it makes sense for them to go to China and make this happen. So, I mean, I don't know. It's not going to revolutionize the game. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, that's not what I'm trying to suggest. But at the same time, I think that market and that audience is too big for you to skip out on, even if you think that it's too far away and the television ratings won't be good, or you're not going to have strong start times like you did in Vancouver and even Sochi to a degree. So I think that's an issue. I mean, I think the NHL has sort of been cursed with these last two Olympics where they have been in such strong time zones in terms of games making it happen. You can watch a game if you really want to. You can watch a game at noon if it's a gold medal game or 10 a.m. You can do that. You can get yourself up for that. Or in Vancouver, it's a 3-hour time difference for those on the East Coast. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've been cursed in that regard where it's so convenient for the fans that they haven't been tested with an Olympics with a time zone difference like this in years. I mean, even Torino was only, 5 hours, 6 hours? So, I mean, this is going to test
era of Twitter. I mean, in the Twitter era where you can't hide what's going on in games. I mean, you couldn't hide it anyway, but yeah, I agree. This is impossible. It's impossible to avoid this. I mean, I have a friend who's working on an app that's really cool that actually enables you to say, okay, you add certain keywords or phrases, and it somehow filters out anything mentioned on Twitter about those things. But that kind of stuff is impossible to fix. It's impossible to avoid things. I mean, there's some funny jokes. I was watching Seinfeld the other day. One of the first Seinfelds where Kramer comes in and Jerry's sitting down to watch the Mets game, and he disturbs remember that famous line. We all remember that. I mean, I remember trying to get back from a gig I had when the Flyers were playing in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals against Detroit, the game that they eventually would lose the Stanley Cup, but I didn't want to know what happened in the game, and trying to get from Delaware to Philadelphia without finding out what the heck happened in that game. We've been having to drive through a McDonald's and being like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you're right.
The one fly in the ointment, too, could be by next year, there could be a Chinese team in the KHL. And I kind of wonder what that does. Yeah, they wrote about it yesterday. Let me see what year they're looking at that. But they're talking about that now.
The time difference between here and Korea is 13 hours. So right now it's 3:30 Friday. Tomorrow it's 4:30 a.m. Saturday in Korea. So you're talking about for games to be played in prime time. You're talking about games being played at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. In Korea. It doesn't work.
No, that won't happen.
It does not work. So
guys haven't played games like that before in Pee-wee, so.
Yeah, right. This is like men's league hockey.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
They're
Russ.
trying to put a team in China next year, the KHL.
Yeah, and like I said, I remember back to '98 with Nagano watching God, who was it? Was it Robert Reichel who got the game-winning goal in the shootout against Canada? And Hasek stoning Team Canada. It was at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
It was at 2:00 in the morning, and that was before the advent of social media. So forget, maybe most people would have watched that game the next morning because they didn't know the result, but it's not happening anymore. So
yeah.
It's a shame Twitter wasn't around then, because the room trashing that was going on by the players, that would have all been on Twitter. It would have been.
Yeah, there would have been Instagrams, there would have been photos of all that stuff. There would have
absolutely.
been
we would have seen the damage right away. It would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, instead we just have to look at Claude Giroux naked in Instagram pictures, and yeah, I mean, it's not nearly as interesting as it could have been.
Yes, it's July 31st, folks. We're talking naked Claude Giroux.
And not only naked Claude Giroux, but let's transition that beautifully into Jacob Voracek's contract signing. Flyers tie up two big players, big in size and big in importance for their team. And these are really, Russ, they're long contracts. They're interesting because they're old-time Flyers contracts, they feel like to me. They feel like this feels like the Flyers, when there was no salary cap, they just wouldn't screw around unless, of course, they were negotiating with, ironically enough, Ron Hextall, back when he was the one guy who they never could seem to get a contract done with when he was a player. But they would. I mean, this is a non screwing around contract with Voracek. This is just okay. But someone pointed out, he he's only, he went up 19 points last year. He's a great player, but is he an $8.2 million player 9 years from now?
But you see, now for that person to say only 19, how many 81-point guys were there in the NHL?
Right. So if you're a point-a-game guy, are you an $8 million guy now?
Yeah, that's what you are.
That's pretty good. I mean, for 1 point a game, 1 assist, or you're an $8 million a year player. I mean, that's not too bad. I mean,
yeah, but a guy who was a point-a-game player 5 years ago isn't a point-a-game player anymore. Now that guy is a guy who scores 55, 60 points in 82 games.
True. I mean, and I mean, it's a. Does it? I mean, in the worst case scenario, I mean, the one thing I hate about these kind of contracts is they did it now. They didn't have to necessarily do it now. Voracek, what kind of year is he going to have? Who knows? I mean, they could have maybe given themselves a little bit of leeway. I got the feeling, though, that, Claude Giroux is also pushing them to get this done. Those guys are tight, and I think they wanted this to get done right away.
Look, I mean, he was 5th in the league in scoring.
Yeah.
And he only had 22 goals as 5th in the league in scoring. And even though that is not his main thing, I'm pretty sure they're going to have him shoot a little more. So it's possible he could get 30 goals. And so once you get beyond that 70-point range these days in the NHL, you're an elite player.
Oh yeah, no, he's an elite. I mean, he was the leading scorer in the NHL for a large part of the first half of the year last year.
Yep.
I think he's a great player. I kind of like the Couturier contract more so in some ways because I really think they got themselves a good deal with Couturier. But we did, we talked about that a little bit more. I want to get into Voracek.
Well, let me just make this one point about Voracek. I mean, Voracek had the hammer like Ryan O'Reilly did. They were both UFAs at the end of next year. So you enter a season with a guy who's a UFA, more than likely, especially with the cap hit that like O'Reilly had. He had a $6 million cap hit. It was going to be tough for Colorado to get value for him if the season started. Voracek's deal was a little more reasonable, but they don't want to move him. He had all the leverage, and the $7 million contract for O'Reilly and the 8.25 for Voracek reflects that.
Ty, do you think yesterday there was a lot of talk about the fact that we're in an NHL now of duos? Like this is like the mess. Like we're in that. I mean, where would you rank Giroux and Voracek on that scale?
I mean, they're top 10 for sure. I would put them in the top 5 just because I think they complement one another so well.
Yeah.
When you talk about, Voracek, he scored 22 goals this past season, 23 the year before. This isn't a 40-goal scorer, don't get me wrong. But between he and Giroux, I mean, they combined for 55, maybe 60 goals between the two of them. And I think that's one of the things that you have to consider when you look at this contract, look at that 1-2 punch there. Both these guys can shoot and pass. This isn't, Thornton and Marlowe where one dishes, the other one scores. This is a duo that can do both, and I think that means a lot for the Flyers, and it's going to mean a lot for them, and I think that's reflected in the contract itself. I mean, 81 points, almost 60 assists, and you don't see that too often these days. So I just think that, if you can work on a shot a bit more, or just find more time to get Giroux with some open looks and some goals, because we know he can bury the puck, that this will be a formidable 1-2 punch for the Flyers for years to come. And Voracek's only 25 years old, and Giroux's not too old himself there. So I like what they have there, and I do like to deal with Couturier as well. I mean, that's a player that does it all, really. So I like the foundation there with that 1-2-3, and you can't forget Wayne Simmons is on a great contract for the Flyers as well. So there's some positives here. You have your 1-2 punch, and they are accounting for about $16 million of your cap, but Taves and Kane is $20 million. So saving $5 million really. It's not a bad deal for the Flyers.
And those are obviously the gold standard in the duos, right? Yeah. I mean, Keane and Taves are it. I mean, they are the ones who everybody's looking at. I mean, they've got 2 Stanley Cups. They're also very media savvy. I mean, Giroux and Voracek are good guys, but I wouldn't call them, Kane and Taves. Like they don't have that same kind of electric way about themselves. But they do both push each other a lot. I mean, Voracek, I think, watching the Flyers as often as I do, and Russ, we've talked about it too. I think over the last couple of years, Voracek's been the most consistent player on the team. I mean, I feel like, personally, I felt like he was better than Giroux over the last 2 years, really, if you took it all.
Yeah, I mean, ever since he sort of rededicated himself off-season wise, he works a lot harder now in the off-season. He's a little older, a little smarter, and so that's gone a long way. I'd probably put them in the top 5 duos in the NHL based on their age and their output and everything else. They're both all-stars. You know, you're not going to beat Kane and Taves, and you can come up with a few others. You know, you can go Kings. You could even want to go Detroit still. You might be able to do that. But there's not that many that you can count on like this. I mean, there's just not.
Yeah, this is Malkin and Crosby, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of the others.
They don't really play together, Malkin and Crosby. These guys play together.
Yeah,
Getzlaf and Perry.
Yeah, I just think of this 1-2 punch. You know, this like the one to me. It's the 1-2 punch idea of it. It's just like you got these two guys who can come in and dominate, and you know, $16 million for, like Ty said, like 70 goals roughly or so a season. It's not terrible. It seems like a lot of money, but it's not. I mean, it's not in this day in the NHL standards right now. It's actually right about right.
Ovechkin and Backstrom too.
Yeah, Ovechkin and Backstrom, man.
That's what I'm saying. I think you could put them 5th, and that would be just.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think. Go ahead.
I mean, you have to identify the guys that are worth paying for, and I think that's what you do. You do that, you have the 1-2 punch, and you have the supporting cast all around it, and that's the next step for Ron Hextall, is finding the guys that he can control under team control and not overpay for, because that's been a horrific problem with the Flyers in years past. I mean, you can even point to it right now with LeCavalier and with I know they traded for him, but R.J. Umberger. I mean, that's dead weight. You can't have that if you're going to be successful. So that becomes the next mission. You have your 1-2 punch, you have your supporting cast members, but it's retaining those guys and bringing guys in that you think can really work around your cap structure and not kill you 3 years from now because of those contracts.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think Hextall's done a good job for the most part. I mean, the R.J. Umberger's trade aside, I mean that's the one that, I mean, it's kind of unfair. Some people keep telling me it's unfair because there's more to it, then you're getting. I mean, I didn't see Hartnell as this giant cancer that a lot of people seem to see him as. I do see him as a different type of guy, but I didn't see him as just a devastatingly terrible person for the locker room. I mean, he wasn't
either. I disagree with that too.
Russ, it's really been characterized as he's like this horrible, and he's not. If anything, he's the opposite. He's too much. I mean, he's basically, for lack of better words, a hippie.
Yeah.
Like and that's just the way you want to say it. I mean, like he's like, you got a lot of guys in there, a lot of jocks, and he is like the laid back hippie guy, and that's what he does. And he's not negative, but he's not. But he doesn't. And his work ethic, they want him to work out. He might go to Peru instead. But that's the thing. They want that kind of stuff happened year after year. But I think once the game, when it got down to the games, Hartnell did show up and he did score big goals, and he did. He might not have been in shape or he might have been gasping for breath at times, but he's still
always accountable too. I mean, always accountable.
Yeah, and always nice. I mean, I never had an issue dealing with Hartnell ever. I mean, he was just a great guy going back to Nashville even. So. Yeah, I think that's the one trade that I heard Bill Clement yesterday on XM saying that he didn't disagree with anything Hextall's done so far. That's the one that I still don't understand completely. I just think that if you had to really move him out to create a culture like Hextall was trying to create a culture, there had to be another way to do it than bring R.J. Umberger into fold, I would think.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. But everyone, I mean, so far, I mean, the Flyers organization seems very happy with Hextall, the coach. Everybody's
anything about that for a while though. Like, this is all early stage stuff. Even in camp, you're not going to really see anything. You're really not going to know until that first quarter of the season how it's sort of rolling out.
It is funny, isn't it? And just reading the quotes about these things. Maybe I'm just cynical lately because a lot of things have been going on that making me cynical about it in other parts of this business of ours. But no, it's funny the quotes coming with with Hextall. Oh, it's so great they didn't go for a retread, and then another team brings a retread, and it's so great to bring the experience into the. I'm just hands in the air type thing.
If you want to look at it negatively, Mike Babcock is a retread.
Right, he's a retread, right? Bernier.
Come on.
I mean, the stuff that's coming out about Bernier right now is hilarious because it depends what side you want to play and how you want to play it. I mean, I know that's partly summer, but it's just, I mean, let's just see what Hextall does. I mean, I think for players like Couturier, Hextall is going to be an upgrade. I mean, I think certain players will thrive under him probably. But hearing Couturier talk the other day, and I think you agree, Russ. I mean, Couturier is one of the, Bill Clement talked about his hockey IQ, and he's got a great hockey IQ. Obviously, he's his dad was a coach, and that sort of shows through the whole thing. You know, you really get that sense from the beginning. And he's not like, it's not like Couturier is a rocket scientist. He's just a really good he's got really good hockey sense. He just knows what he's doing on the ice at all times, and he's very conservative with his play.
I just found this all very funny. He's got this really frozen laugh on there. It's kind of scary.
Oh, I know. I know. It is really crazy. So,
Well,
yeah, there's a lot to go on there. But so moving on to the next topic I have on plate, it looks like Ray Bourque, Ty, is going to return to wear the Boston Bruins sweater again.
They signed him?
Yeah, they're bringing him back. They needed a defenseman. No, he's going to be in the Winter Classic.
He's more mobile than Zdeno Chara now.
Yeah, can I just say the alumni games and the Winter Classics are really good. I really actually do like them. I do enjoy them. They're especially. You love them too, yeah. What are your thoughts, Ty? Looking forward to that one?
Yeah, I mean, it should be interesting. Ray's added a couple pounds since he walked away from the game. He owns an Italian restaurant, so that should be expected, really.
Yes.
Too much pasta. But honestly, I love the alumni games. I like when they mix them with celebrities as well. I think that's always a fun sort of factor in it as well.
You can't mix that game with celebrities. You can't.
This would be a perfect game for let's suit up Bill Burr and Dennis Leary and get them out there and they'll try.
Go ahead. Put Dennis Leary out there with Ray Bourque.
I think it's a good pairing.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
This should be a good one. I mean, I'm excited, but this is going to be, I think, a great event. Foxborough, it's going to be, it's a big stadium. It's going to have better sight lines for the fans. I will always say that Fenway Park was a great place to be and experience that day in 2010 at the Winter Classic with the Bruins and the Flyers. But the sight lines are just horrible for.
Not where I watched the game from.
Yeah, baseball parks in general, I feel, have pretty poor vantage points for a lot of these games.
Because first of all, because Fenway has such a small media press box, they didn't have any of us. Like a lot of us were in the basement, right? So what I ended up doing was I took the train up with my wife and kids, so they had tickets, so I joined them, but they were in the bleachers in right field, which is just a horrible place to be.
We walked around. I just walked around.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't see anything out there to the point where that's when I said the NHL, they really need to, at Winter Classics, and I'm going to get on this again, they need to broadcast the play-by-play into the crowd, especially in some places lower down. Didn't, because you had no idea what was happening in the game. Like, you're literally watching the heads above, just above the boards go by. And where we were sitting, also you couldn't. And the fans were all they were trying to get into it. Everybody, it's such a celebratory atmosphere. Everybody wants to get into it.
But they're not going to do that because you want to hear the puck being played, the shot along the glass. They'll have everything mic'd like they do for a normal game. And if you have the play-by-play broadcast into the crowd, you're going to have all that ambient noise. So
all they need is a 16-channel mixer, man. It's not that hard to put it together.
I just hope this game isn't too deflating for the Canadiens fans.
Jeez, here we go.
Hey, ready forever.
I was gonna ask Ty, is Chris Nyland gonna play the first period as a Canadian and the second period as a Bruin?
That guy hates the Bruins, and he's constantly spouting off about the Bruins, and it's just so weird because he used to play for them, and I just don't get it. He's very bitter about what happened.
That's where you don't want a celebrity playing on the Boston end, because if you're on the ice with Nyland, there is no filter. I've interviewed him. He told me he's playing a beer league game and he will plaster you in the corner.
He looks like that kind of guy. I mean, honestly, like I don't understand his hatred for the Boston Bruins. I feel like they treated him right, for the role that he was, but he doesn't like him. So I don't know if he'll be invited to that game. He might be, but it would kind of surprise me personally. I mean, that's the thing too. I wonder who you're going to have for the Montreal Canadiens, because every Montreal Canadiens Canadian player of note is now 95 years old. So I really don't know who's going to be playing.
LaFleur can still skate around. He'll be there. Steve Shutt, even though he's fat.
Well, okay.
Will John Leclerc? I mean, I'm wondering about that era.
For Montreal. Desjardins could play for Montreal.
I mean, Vinny Damphus, Kirk Muller, those guys from the '93 team. But Patrick Waugh is not going to put on a Montreal Canadiens jersey.
No. But Muller played, back in the Classic game that I covered, that alumni game. Muller played in that game because I was on the plane with him. So
yeah, you can. Why can't Patrick Waugh? Why can't Patrick Waugh? Come on. Like,
because he hates that organization because of what they did to him.
yeah, but it's not a. I mean, the cool thing about
what's the other option? You're gonna put Jocelyn Thébault in there? You're gonna
yeah, right.
No, red light Rassico. You want a very entertaining game. Come
Here's
on.
our perfect chance for our weekly Bunny LaRock statement.
Buddy LaRock.
No. How about Richard Sevigny or Denny Herron?
Yeah.
Let's
No,
get Richard Zednick and Kyle McLaren out there though, for old time's sake.
yeah, you know, there's so. I mean, this is such a classic and such a great rivalry. I'm really glad the NHL's doing another Canadian team in the Winter Classic. I think that's a cool thing because it does make hockey feel like it's arrived to a degree, where the hockey fans just realize that the Montreal Canadiens, doesn't matter that they're not an American market, they are the Montreal Canadiens, like the Maple Leafs were when they played the Red Wings.
Well, we can have George Peros versus Colton Orr, and they can knock each other out with one punch.
Yeah, I mean, I guess will Phil Esposito play in this game? I wonder.
No, he hates the Bruins too.
So okay.
He basically Phil gets angry about this stuff. He really does.
Well, this is the chance. I mean, this is how Lindros and the Flyers mended their ways.
Correct quote from Phil Esposito. When he got traded to the Rangers, he said it was like experiencing the death of his mother. That's what.
They're gonna reunite the
Wow.
Cam Neely, Craig Janney, and Bob Joyce line from the late '80s.
I mean, is Bobby Orr beyond skating? Bobby Orr can't skate at all. Is that?
Yeah, he can't. He's way beyond it.
I mean, because remember we saw Bernie Parent in Philadelphia. I mean, we saw things.
No, but I mean, he's had like double knee replacement. Like I know he could play golf, but I don't know if you want. I don't think Bobby Orr wants you to see him like that. I think that's.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
By the way, one of the funnier quotes yesterday from
the goalie. Jose Theodore is the goalie.
Oh my gosh! Come on, they got to be better than that.
He's a better
MVP.
Yeah, I know, but you know, this is such a storied franchise.
Well, okay, Ken Dryden is 70.
There you go.
No, he's too old.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about this is, for you, Ty, and this is what I really liked about the Flyers one, is actually walking into the locker room and covering players that you just never thought you would ever talk to at a stall, like these, you know, that just come way before your time. Like, you know, even for me, Lindros. I mean, I never covered the Flyers when Lindros was there, so just to go up, you know, and that kind of thing.
At the Heritage Classic, at that alumni game, I was interviewing Gretzky and Messier. They're all wearing Oilers uniforms.
Yeah.
I had a chance to interview Gretzky as a player, so it was very cool. And, you know, McTavish, all those guys were there. It was amazing. And the Montreal guys, too. I mean, yes, they were a little bit older, but Larry Robinson and all those guys were there. And so it will be a fun room. But you'll be – look, I think Montreal will field a decent team. I will admit Boston's probably got a lot more younger guys. But I think we forget about some of the younger guys that, you know, aren't that far removed, that weren't superstars, but will play well in a game like this. That's what usually happens.
Mark Recchi.
Mark Recchi could be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, no, he's the guy. I mean, he played in the Flyers one. I mean, that was fun in and of itself, you know.
Will Tim Thomas be the Bruins goalie?
Wow, no, I don't think so.
That would be the absolute best. I love Timmy.
Wouldn't that be amazing? That is actually something that we should push for. We should try. I got Timmy. I know Timmy.
Push for that. No.
I know Timmy. I'm gonna get on this one. I can do this.
Yeah. Contact the bunker. Yeah. Call the bunker and see if he's out. Yeah.
No, that's just wrong. Tim Thomas is very misunderstood.
As long as he can wear
He's very misunderstood.
He is, Russ. He is.
As long as he can wear a Chick-fil-A jersey.
No, I mean, we won't get. Well, let's do it. Let's get it.
Tim Thomas' teammates misunderstood him when he left. I don't think they misunderstood that.
Well, no, but listen. I mean, understand that Tim Thomas is, you know, very, very poor family, right? In
Michigan.
You know, in the middle of Michigan, Flint, Michigan, right? You know, and we've all seen the documentary. So Flint, Michigan, a terrible place to grow up, right? And Tim Thomas supports a lot of people and has his political views, and knew that he was going to face, you know, and I mean, I don't agree with his political views. I'm not like Mike, but I do think that you know, I mean, Tim Thomas is not a bad person. I'm going to throw that out there.
I think Tim Thomas is one of the good guys. I really do. It's just he there are reasons why he left. And
Oh yeah, there's a lot more there,
yeah, and a lot of it's off the record, and a lot of it
Yep.
we won't talk about. But there
Yeah.
are legitimate reasons why he walked away from the game for a year, and when it comes to those reasons, I can't. They're not reasons that I can criticize as a person,
Right.
or as a writer. It's just they were reasons.
Well said. Well said. I mean, I'm 100% there. I really am.
And you know what?
Since Russ is muted and not here now, I'm sure he would agree with us because.
And you know what? Bruins fans, I don't care how it ended with Tim Thomas in Boston. Bruins fans should always be appreciative of what Tim Thomas did because they wouldn't have had a chance in hell of winning the Stanley Cup if it wasn't for Tim Thomas and the way he played in 2011.
And Tim Thomas, I mean, what a story Tim Thomas was. I mean, he just literally, I mean, this guy, I mean, he played in Finland when no one would accept him. He played everywhere. He was a backup every time. I mean, how many times did the Bruins try to make him a backup and push him into the back? I mean, it was every, and another place.
How many times did they try to trade him too?
Right, they tried to trade him, and yet at the end of the day, and what's cool is, he was such a fun goalie to watch. He's the last goalie that plays goal, in my opinion, instead of just trying to be like a machine that goes back and forth. Like Carey Price is a great goalie, obviously an awesome goalie, but he is absolutely a bubble hockey goalie. He goes back and forth smoothly and stays in the same. And Tim Thomas would stack the pads and make a save. Tim Thomas would come out. I mean, I was listening the other day again to my favorite thing to listen to, which is playoff series from the past that I listened to on XM. And remember Tim Thomas in Game 1 of the series against the Canucks, leveling Sedin in front.
Yeah, he did that in Boston. It was I think it was the first game in Boston.
Yeah, I think it was the first game in Boston. Yeah, right. It was Game 3. Yeah. That's right.
And Sedin tries catching the puck out of the air, and Tim Thomas comes up and knocks him down. And that was Tim Thomas to a T. I mean, this was a player who, when they do the Hockey Night in Canada and they talk about who your favorite player was. When it got to Tim Thomas, he mentioned this player that everyone was like, who is that? And he mentioned a player who played in Flint, Michigan, in one of the independent leagues, who was like an enforcer. And that's just so Tim Thomas that his favorite player wasn't, Jerry Cheevers or all these other Jacques Plante, none of these guys. It was this player that no one had heard of, and it was this player that was out of nowhere, an enforcer in the minor leagues, and that's just like that described that guy to a T. I mean, he was always the underdog. He liked that story, and he didn't take any grief from anybody. That was always he knocked down Sedin, he knocked down Burroughs, he knocked down Kostitsin years ago. He had an incident with Pascal Dupuis when Dupuis was a Penguin, I believe. I mean, a Thrasher, I believe. So he was never shy when it came to that style. There is a lot like Billy Smith in that regard, and
yeah,
you could tell that he sort of had that sort of mantra to his game as well.
Yeah, but Billy.
The crazy thing about this was he was not like if you were to talk. One of my favorite things I've ever done was got a friend of mine invited me to dinner with Tim Thomas and Marty St. Louis after an All-Star game in Atlanta, and I went out and you would not have for a second known that Tim Thomas was an NHL player. Like when you're out with him, there's no way.
Was there a height requirement in the room?
Yeah, yeah, right. There was no way. I mean, these are two Vermont kids. Went to University of Vermont, right? But Tim Thomas, it was just he just did not look or act at all. I mean, he had basically. I thought he was the MVP of that All-Star game. He had an incredible All-Star game in Atlanta. I don't know if you remember. For goalies, I mean, he gave up, I think, 1 goal in a period. It was just crazy, crazy good back and forth. And yet, you're sitting there having nachos with him, and he's like, pass the sour cream, just like you're just your guy. He wasn't a hockey player.
Well, back with Dallas, he was like a different guy.
Yeah.
Didn't want to talk to the media. He was very snippy. He hid from the media. And
he got pissed off. I mean, he got
burned. He got burned.
He got burned, and then he did not know how to speak internet. Okay, and that's you can't necessarily hold it against the guy for not knowing how to speak internet at that point. I mean, now we're getting to the point where you do have to speak internet. You do have to start. Teams need to teach their players how to speak internet. But Tim Thomas didn't know how to speak internet. He went on Facebook and just looked like the ugly American, on Facebook, and just completely. And that was it, And then from there, I mean, we saw it with other guys too. Remember Dan Ellis's quotes and things like that on Twitter. I mean, Dan Ellis is a great guy too, but he just got himself into trouble on Twitter as well. So I mean, there's just you got to speak internet, and Timmy couldn't do it. So at that point, Tim just shut down, and he got into the whole point of, okay, I'm just going to take care of myself and my family and screw all you guys. And that's where he was. But that's not where he always was. And that's not where he was as a Bruin for the most part. I mean,
no, that's true. I agree with that.
not until the very end. I mean, he was a pretty humble character. I mean, that's what made this all kind of strange, to like everybody's talking about how arrogant he was, because Tim Thomas and arrogance didn't go together. This was just an opinion he held very strongly, and because of what he had seen and what he'd been through. And he, like there's a lot of NBA players that support a lot of people, and in NHL it's not always like that. Tim kind of has that more of that NBA thing where he supports a lot of families, and the money he makes, goes around, and he just felt like it was being taxed wrong. There was things that he just didn't like about it. I don't know. Mike understands these things because he's that way politically. Anyway. Bring the show to a screeching halt there, Mike. How about that?
Thank you very much. Yes.
No problem.
No. Well, I had mentioned it in our abbreviated pre-show.
Yes.
That Alex Galchenyuk got signed for 2 years by the Canadiens to a 2-year bridge deal, and I know we talked about him a few weeks ago with Kevin about how I personally think that he is not being misused by Therrien because he's a young player who Therrien believes is not ready to play up the middle. I think eventually he's going to have to play up the middle and be effective up the middle for him to be what they would consider a good draft pick, 3rd overall. I think he's got a lot of talent. I just don't – I mean, the bridge deal, and Russ, it was a 2-year bridge deal for around a little under $3 million. That's reflective of him being still a bit of a question mark at 21 years old.
I don't think he's as much of a question mark as they're making him out to be. And we had Mark Bergevin on our show at the draft, and he's a slick guy. I think he managed to get the price down on Galchenyuk in the last few months. I think with all the, we don't know if he's a center talk. Well, if you're not a center, well, then all of a sudden your price isn't as high. And then, so I think that was all about contract, not about talent. If you ask me, that was my insight for that.
And that's what they did with Subban.
Yeah.
They accentuated the negative with Subban about his defensive problems when they got him to the bridge deal, and then he went out and won the Norris Trophy. So you really couldn't say, okay, he's not that good. Well, he just won the Norris. He is that good.
Right. No, I mean, I think that they kind of messed up with it. I don't know. I have my theories on Montreal, and that Therrien and Bergevin are not really on the same page here. But Galchenyuk's one that they're going to have. They really need to get on the same page about. And I think this firmly shows. This isn't a huge deal, but it does show confidence in him that that he does believe that they believe he should be playing center. And if he plays center. I mean, Plekanec's the next guy, right? Then they have to sign Plekanec. They got to extend him, and that's a tough call. I mean, that's a different. I mean, I don't know where you are right now with Montreal. I mean, Plekanec is a very important player to the Montreal Canadiens. He's probably their best all-around forward. Maybe I could argue. You could argue.
It's a funny thing, getting back to 1 second for Galchenyuk, he did have 20 goals. Like we're talking about this guy,
Yeah, no, I know.
Goals.
No, I know he can score, and he scores some beautiful goals too, and he shows moments where he's obviously a star. I think his inconsistency is maybe a little bit heightened by the fact he's a Canadian. The fact that he's being watched so closely. You don't think so, Mike?
His inconsistency is in his own end, which with a team that has Carey Price covering up your mistakes, sometimes isn't apparent. But I mean, that's for a guy like Therrien who's focused on the defensive end of the game. That's something that will keep him in the doghouse if he continues to struggle that way. But I'll say I think Pacioretty is their best overall forward. But sure. Plekanec is making, I think, 5.5, and he's on the last year of his deal. And I think he's over the age of 30. I mean, yeah, that's a tricky situation. I mean, they're not going to want to extend him for 5 or 6 years. He's a guy they're probably going to want to get on a short-term deal. But the thing is, this is probably Plekanec's last opportunity to make really big money, and he's going to probably look for that 5 or 6 year deal someplace.
Definitely going to look for 5. He's 32. He got 60 points. I would give him 4 and an option. And look, I think that's the best you could do. But they need his offense. That team is offensively challenged. There's no way around it.
And remember, it can't be minimized enough or maximized enough how the taxes play into signing guys in Montreal. They've got to figure that out too. I mean, that's you lose a lot of money by signing as a Canadian, and it will be the same with the Nordiques. So and the Nordiques, by the way, are looking for money. Have you noticed this? Have you heard about that? Have you read the story? They're basically trying to get. I'm sorry to read this right. They're looking for help with and they don't want to pay the $500,000 expansion fee cost.
500,000. It's
500 million. Sorry. Yes. I know it's 500
They don't want to pay the league.
They could have done a Kickstarter and got the 500,000.
Right. According to the story, which was, let's see, I'm trying to find. Okay, it was in the Canadian Press story. Quebecor says it's recruiting partners for its bid to bring the Nordiques back to Quebec City. The media and telecom company said Thursday it's opened talks with some sponsors and signed contracts, but has yet to secure another investor willing to help foot the $500 bill, according to this story. It says literally US $500 bill. I got $500. Anybody else?
I know the exchange rate has gotten bad, but it's not that bad. Come on.
Well, I'm serious. It's very funny. So no, this is it. Look at this. Check this out. So here we go. I'll bring it up for you just so you can see that indeed, right here, the investor willing to help foot the US $500 bill.
Well, I will give it to him.
I think between the four of us and maybe one other person, we can each go in for $100 and get this thing done. Maybe.
Who's on the $500 bill?
There was a $500 bill. Do you know that? There used to be.
Yeah, there was. I don't know who's on it. I got to look it up.
Salmon v. Chase.
It's Tim Thomas. He's on it.
No, Chase is on the 1,000.
Yeah. No, this is no, that definitely. So I'm not sure this will get done, but again, the money in Canada is tough right now. So this is not.
But here's the thing. I mean, again, these people in Quebec are acting as if they have some sort of leverage. They have no leverage.
Right.
Or you don't get a team.
Right. Right. No, this does come down to money.
$100 bill.
Who is?
McKinley.
McKinley. Excellent.
Yeah, I've never had a $500 bill in my hand.
No, neither have I. You can never break them. You go to Wawa, you can't. They won't take it.
You give it to a small collector, see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens there. Finally, Wolverine. I don't know if you guys saw this. Marvel Comics. Wolverine is shown to be a Canadian hockey fan. Here we go. So not of the Canadians, but here's the latest comic from Wolverine, where we see quite clearly that Wolverine is wearing a Calgary Flames jersey.
Yeah.
Pretty funny, yeah. So
that's actually just Brandon Bollig. That's all. That's just Brandon Bollig. That's not even Wolverine.
No, this is Brandon. Okay, yeah. So Ty, help us out here. So this is not Wolverine. This is Brandon Bollig.
Yeah, that's him. He's having himself a day.
Right. Okay. So
as you can see, that's Kevin Bieksa, and then over there, that's Alex Burrows as well. This is last year's playoff round.
I think Wolverine woke up after one of his stupors without clothes. He was on the Red Mile, and he grabbed the Calgary shirt. I think that's all it proves.
Right. There you go. I think that's it. And it's hard to put on your vintage jersey with those kind of things sticking out of your hands.
That's true.
Dangerous stuff. Well, I hope you guys had a good week. We'll be back again next week at a regularly scheduled time. By the way, I'm watching. I say that because I am going through the original Batman series right now. It's just awesome.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in there. The inexplicable one is sort of why the Liberace character, I forget his name, why he was interested in Aunt Harriet, Aunt Harriet. But I just
what was his name? Oh my gosh,
he was a gangster.
He was.
Right.
But I never understood why he was interested in Aunt Harriet. I was just like, that's a little weird.
Well, yeah.
Well, there's a great, the interesting thing about this series is like a lot of these great series, I mean, this happened coincidentally exactly the same time as the Star Trek series was on, which is funny. I didn't realize that. The same 3 years, it wasn't a long time, right, that Star Trek was on. It was was it 4 or 5 years?
67 or 69.
Right, this is the same period of time that the Batman series was on.
I think my favorite...
That was the name of Liberace's character. Shandell.
What was it?
Shandell.
I think my favorite bad character from the old Batman series was a character actor named Victor Buono who played King Tut. It was so bad. It was just such a
Hey, wait, I got to put this link in the chat room, X, so you could show this picture. This is This is a tremendous picture that I just found. Hold on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You guys will like this. Is a vintage Batman shot. If I can get this.
I saw again watching Seinfeld the other day. This all ties together. Or Seinfeld was saying, he misses the days of superhero criminals being like,
Just click that massive link. Sorry.
That's quite a link.
So after I tell this little story. So Seinfeld was like was basically saying, back in the old days, in these comic books, it's like the criminal, when someone steals your wallet now, it's like, what does he look like? Back then he looked like he was dressed like a penguin. It was so much easier to find people when they just looked like a penguin. He's a penguin. It's easy to find. Here's this lovely link. Oh man, yeah, this is a good one. This brings back nightmares in my head. Hold on.
Yeah.
Show this picture. This is great. This was such a messed up series. I mean, it's really fun.
Just click that massive link. Sorry.
Really funny. I got it right there. I got it. I'm just bringing it. I just want to make sure we're not hearing me twice. All right, here we go. So here's the good old. This is Batman and Robin and the famous Liberace character. It was awesome. Yeah, there's nothing homoerotic about this scene.
Well, what about the other one that I gave you?
Oh, that's what came up when I clicked that.
No, there's that one. Yeah, the one where she's sharing a drink.
Oh yes, here we go. Here we go. This one, right?
Yeah, Android and Chandel are sharing a drink. Like, get out of here.
Oh yeah, no, that was the funny thing about this is they tried to start a Batman, a Batgirl. Remember, Batgirl comes into play.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they wanted. I was watching the documentary on this thing too because I was just gotten into it lately. And the Batgirl series just got canceled, so they just merged it into the Batman series before it started. Like they never put it on the air, but suddenly Batgirl just arrived.
Well, remember Green Hornet started on Batman.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they gave Green Hornet his own series. I love the Green Hornet series. I was a big Bruce Lee fan. But the other thing about going back to the Batman is the reason that they created all the scenes where somebody was popping out of the window was so all these actors could be seen on TV by their grandkids and their kids.
That's so funny. I mean, no, Sammy Davis Jr. is in one of them. Remember, he just pops out the window for no reason.
But that didn't happen for a couple of years of the show. All of a sudden, they came up with the idea because they got flooded with requests that that was their answer, and it was pretty brilliant.
And it was so cheesy. I mean, and the way Bruce Wayne talks to Robin all the time throughout that whole show is so creepy. I mean,
my favorite line from Robin was "Holy molars!" Like you can't beat that.
Holy molars! I know. Holy hand grenades. I mean, that Robin was something. And I mean, and just what Robin was wearing. There's just a lot of messed up stuff about this. But anyway, and then all the Batman in one of the first episodes, brings a woman back to the Batcave, which he never does, and kills her. I mean, I was like watching this thing. I'm like, whoa, hold on. He drops her into a pit. Anyway, that's when superheroes. So Batman versus Superman coming out soon. We'll talk about that again, I'm sure. Guys, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you Monday.